Last time I talked about the Lord of the Rings, we left off with the first book, the Fellowship of the Ring. Today, we're going to continue that discussion. And the reason I want to continue to talk about it is because I think that what I discussed a little bit last time was each of us has to pick up our burden, and we get these situations thrust upon us. And I think a lot of people felt that lonesome road over the last several years of feeling like you're alone, feeling like you're the only one who's seeing some of these crazy things happening. But in the second book, The Two Towers, which I have here, I have my full set of the Lord of the Rings books here, um, which is what I do recommend you buy on Amazon because if you're going to buy one, you got to read the whole thing. You can't just read one of them, obviously. That would be ridiculous. But the reason I think this is so interesting right now is because we're kind of at this point where we're seeing all the other people who are picking up their burdens, who are saying, you know what, this is an imminent thing. There's this doom and gloom, this gray cloud above us everywhere I look, and I'm not the only one seeing it. I'm not the only one feeling it, and I'm going to do something. And you're starting to see a bunch of people pushing back and doing something about it. And that's what I think we need. And that's where the second book of the Lord of the Rings really comes to a head is all these people who are seeing things out there in the world are all of a sudden coming together and fighting together. And that's what I love about this. And that's why I want to talk about that today. But before I do, I just want to remind you subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave a good rating and review. That really helps me get this out there and gets the conversation of our generation shared with more people. And if you're trying to nudge someone into reading The Lord of the Rings, send them this book review so that they can see why they should be reading this one and the one before. The I guess I'm not sure exactly what episode number it is, probably 195, 196, something like that. I'm not quite sure, but definitely check that out. Also, yesterday I dropped the first course and I put it in the podcast so you could check that out in the feed. But if you're interested in that, go to conversationofourgeneration.com/courses to let me know that you're interested. And as I roll that out, there will be a way it'll cost you for the rest of the courses. It is going to be premium content. So for people who are subscribed and who are members of my locals, so paying the $2 a month on locals, those people will get that with their membership there. And if you just want to buy it one off, you will be able to do that as well. If you just want to say, I just want to buy the course, that's totally fine. You can do that. So just calling that out so that you can check that out because I'm going to be going through the Nicomachean Ethics book by book, the Abolition of Man, Confucius's Analects and the Doctrine of the Mean, as well as uh, Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching. So going through those four, plus some extra stuff as well, tying it together and really diving into what the mean is so that we can discover the golden mean and put forward carry that idea into the next generation because I think that that's a huge piece of philosophy and a great thing that's been passed down to us. And I want to help pass that down and inform more people on that. So check that out. And also you can head over to conversationofourgeneration.com/newsletter to get signed up for the top discussions so that you get that each week in your inbox. And then yesterday, the monthly newsletter went out as well, talking about our education system, how it's broken, part of why I think it's broken and how we're fixing it with these courses rolling out and others as well, like PragerU and some other great people out there doing great work. And so let's hop on over to the quote of the week. Sorry about that if there's a little bit of a skip there, but for people watching the video at least, but had to pull up the quote. And I just want to make a disclaimer here because there will probably be spoilers in this. So before I dive into the quote, I just want to let you know if you haven't read The Lord of the Rings and you want to read them first, buy the books through the link and go ahead and read it before you listen to this. But I do think definitely coming back and listening to this will help see why these are so important, at least to me, and why I think this is such a crucial thing to read right now. Or watch the movies. I don't care if you want to do that as well. The books are better. So just throwing that out there. But I think the movies are pretty great as well. My wife doesn't, I think, realize that there are also 3 Hobbit movies when she agreed to go through watching the Lord of the Rings movies with me. We watched 2 of them together. and still have to watch the third, but they're obviously very long, and so you have to make time for it. And so after we get through these, I'll be like, hey, by the way, you ready to watch The Hobbit? Um, so, anyways, the quote is a great call to arms, and so again, spoiler. This isn't really a spoiler, but we will be diving into the story. So it's a call to arms, and it says, "Arise now, arise, riders of Theoden. Dire deeds awake. Dark is it eastward. Let horse be bridled, horn be sounded. Forth, Aerlingus." I like this because this is coming at the point where what's basically happened is Theoden has kind of become blind because of a servant that he has named Wormtongue, who's working for the enemy and is whispering in his ear and making him weak by telling him that he can't accomplish things, that he can't beat, you know, the evil powers that are at hand. And all of a sudden there's a turn of heart, and they're calling to arms. And uh this is what I think is just so powerful, and so much of what we need is this kind of call to arms. Arise now, arise, riders of Theoden. Dire deeds awake. Dark is it eastward. And the eastward is the where Sauron is, at the Dark Lord, basically. And it's just this whole book has time after time where something like that, where you just feel like you're ready to take on whatever losing battle is coming your way, even if it's hopeless, even if you know that you can't win. I think we have this serious sense of, and now I just realized that my microphone wasn't in front of my face. So hopefully the rest of this will be loud enough. I will have to adjust that. But this whole sense of being ready to take up a fight, even if you feel like you can't win, and push back no matter what, and push back despite the fact that it might be hopeless. And that's what this whole book really does a great job of covering. And so I think that that's why it's important. I think we look at the institutions, the mainstream media, all of the education system, Hollywood, all these huge institutions of power are force feeding us far left propaganda in all reality. I mean, I don't know how rigged the voting machines were. I'm not going to get into that. I don't necessarily think that's the case. But we saw the Time article where they admitted the fact that they did everything they could to change laws to make it technically legal to steal away of an election in a large way. I mean, huge companies putting dollars into leftist things because they are being blackmailed and told that their nice business would be ashamed if something happened to it. And that is not right. And we see that, and it seems like there's no hope, but there are people pushing back. There are things at work. And that's what this whole second book is you see all of these pieces and you don't understand quite how they're going to come together to win. You have this hope, and it's a book and it's a story, so you think that there's going to be a happy ending, obviously, because that's how a lot of those heroes' journeys go, right? And when you look at Luke Skywalker, or I mean, any sort of journey like that, even in the first Toy Story movie, right? You have the hero's journey there, and you see this ability to overcome even the most hopeless circumstances, but you're not quite sure how that's going to happen. You have a hope, and you hold out hope, and you fight because of that hope, but you don't really know how it's going to play out. And that, I think, is what we see in this book. And that's what I really think we need to have more of in our culture. The people who are not sure if their contribution really helps, it does. The people who are not sure what they have to offer, you have plenty to offer. And so make sure that you are pushing back, you are fighting where you can. You don't have to start a podcast. You don't have to be out there with 100,000 followers. You have to be talking to the people around you. And I do this podcast, I do have these conversations and put out my ideas through this. And I think if you want to do that and you can do that, that's great. The more that you can even have a small following that does that is good. And I don't have a big following by any means. I have, decent number of followers, and I appreciate everyone who does, but it's not like I'm your Ben Shapiro's or anything like that, or even close to that. So you can still have an impact if you're having a small impact, even on the people around you, your family, your friends. If you're pushing back against these big overarching narratives and fighting a fight, even when you think it's hopeless. And I know I talk a lot about walking away from bad discussions, and you have to do that, but I also think you have to have the courage to speak up when it seems daunting. And if we don't, we're going to lose the culture. We're going to lose what so many people before us sacrificed everything to build, and we're going to throw it away if we don't take up our mantle and take up our responsibility and fight back. So that's what we need to do. And that's why I love this second book, because you start to see pieces coming together, but you don't exactly see how the good guys are going to win. And I'm not going to tell you in this episode whether or not the good guys win. Most of you probably know the outcome, but you're not really sure how it's all working, and a few plot twists come your way. And it's just a great book. I mean, again, it's just so well written. And if you read it, I was listening to another podcast, and they mentioned that they often skip the songs, they skip the descriptions of the world, and they just get to the action and the dialogue. And I totally recommend you don't do that. I mean, if you're someone who's kind of an impatient reader and you just need to get through it, fine. But if you are someone who really wants to get the full understanding of this world and this story, it is so rich to just really dive into all of the words and to just feel like you're enveloped in this world that Tolkien is able to give you in the Lord of the Rings. And so definitely check out the book. Also, take up the fight and find others who are fighting and join up with them. That's why I'm trying to do more interviews over this past year and do more on social to interact and find people doing my top discussions, so people who follow me can see what I'm listening to and share things with me as well. Because I think that we need to come together and band together and fight together if we're going to have hope of taking back the culture and putting it on the right path. So if you're in for that, join me and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Give me some good ratings and reviews on the podcast. Leave comments and, like on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at ConnellBarGen, or on Facebook. You can find me there just about everywhere on social. You can just search Conversation of Our Generation and you should find me. And then if you go to conversationofourgeneration.com/newsletter, you can sign up to get my weekly top discussions and other updates on what I'm doing here. And then also check out conversationofourgeneration.com/courses and sign up for any courses that you're interested in. If you're interested in all four, check all four and shoot your email over. And when those updates about those courses come out, I will be sure to let you know. I'm building some lists in the background to make sure I know who's interested in what. And so that's going to help me decide as well where I focus my energies next. But it seemed like the golden mean was something that a lot of people were rallying around and very interested in. A lot of people are very interested in architecture as well. So just throwing that out there, that is on the short list. People seemed very interested in communism and the evolution of Marxist thought. Another one that's up there. So definitely check that out, conversationofourgeneration.com/courses. And if you're, and I also haven't mentioned, check out my book as well, Property Rights in the Digital Age, available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. And if you're interested in buying this book, you can check out the show notes to get the Lord of the Rings trilogy through my link there. That helps me out. Or if you're just going to shop, just go to conversationofourgeneration.com/library if you're going to be shopping, and you can get the link at the very top says Amazon homepage. Click that, and anything that you do to shop from then on helps me. So thank you for listening to this episode of The Conversation of Our Generation. Let's get the dialogue going. I'll talk to you next time.